Before I start the video, I want to say that I apologize for any construction noises you may hear during the video. There is some construction going on outside, so try to edit out the best I could. Anyway, let's get rolling. So there was a new specialist trailer dropped by Battlefield to show off the remaining 5 specialists that we haven't learned about. So today we're going to break down that trailer, look at everything that you missed, as well as go over some thoughts that I have on these specialists. Now before we start the video, remember as always, if you do enjoy, to leave it a nice, thick, and juicy like. Of course, if you enjoy this kind of content, you will more like it. Be sure to hit that big red sexy subscribe button right underneath the video. Also got to thank my channel members. You guys help make these videos possible. If you want to join, get access to the exclusive perks that they get. Be sure to check out that blue join button. Anyway, let's begin. First up is Navin Rao. Now we have seen Navin quite a few times throughout the marketing, including being the only specialist aside from Irish to appear in the Exodus short film. Now Navin does have a cyber warfare suite as his gadget, and he also has the trait of the Trojan network. In the first clip, we can see Navin access his cyber suite. He compromises a nearby enemy's heads-up display to confuse them before taking them down, and this is where his Trojan network comes into play, which spots adjacent enemies to anyone that Navin has taken down, which he then takes out a nearby support player before going over to the recon. Now, the map that we're seeing here appears to be manifest, possibly during a storm, as there seems to be some trees blowing in the background, but it could just be the night setting of this map. We can also see this again as those iconic skyscrapers in the background come into play as Navin turns the corner. Now in clip 2, Navin kills an enemy to start, and then even though a second enemy is spotted, it never says anything about a Trojan network on the HUD, so I'm not sure that works. Maybe it just didn't spot him, or maybe it didn't pop up on the HUD. I don't know, but anyway, he got spotted, he kills a second enemy, and then he goes over and does his little hacker thing again, where he drops the little trafficky thingy so that his buddy can drive through, and then they pop right back up to stop an enemy, which he nails with the M5 recoilless. Now, I do wonder if only Navin can interact with the map via hacks, or if it's sort of a risk-reward type of thing where he can access them from cover, giving him the advantage of making these things happen without people being able to see it, whereas normally you'd be able to walk up and turn it off or on like you could in Battlefield 4. Hopefully there's plenty of things to interact with on these maps so that you can either hack them with a specialist like Navin or walk up and interact with them. I think that'd be really cool and add a lot to the experience of the game. Speaking of the map, this is Kaleidoscope. You can tell from the iconic skyscrapers that you are standing between and litter the skyline around you. Next up is my main man, Espinoza. And I gotta say, I'm a little bit salty about what they did to my guy here. Now, why am I salty? Well, it's because they turned him into Turtle Boy. Yes, he has the deployable ballistic shield that he can put up in front of him and be the ultimate turtle. Now, he does have a pretty cool trait of blast resistance, so he could be pretty tough on maps like, say, Manifest in the freight area, where I'm sure there's going to be a lot of explosions going around, which let's look into these clips and see what I'm talking about. Now the first clip is seemingly inside of one of Kaleidoscope's skyscrapers, as we can see from the Daysong data center on the minimap. This also shows off Espinoza's blast resistance as he just eats a grenade. I mean, he just swallows it whole. And his teammate does go down, he does get kind of blasted off to the side, but Espinoza seems to only take about 50 damage before going in and killing the enemy that seemingly threw the grenade at his feet. As we go into the second clip, it is a bit odd, and it's not because it's turtle time. No, it's more so because as you see Espinoza put on the blast shield, it seems to do damage. Like, you see damage markers. Now, there's no grenades that he has. It looks like he has the sensor balls as his grenades, so I don't think that he threw a grenade, and I don't think the ballistic shield is going to be deflecting bullets right back at people. It's not a lightsaber. It's literally just a ballistic shield, so I'm not really sure how he's doing damage here. It also doesn't show that he has his secondary equipped to fire around the side, which number one would be a little bit overpowered and kind of annoying, so I'm not sure how he gets the kill here. It's not like he runs into anyone and hits them with it. It might have just been an edit for the trailer, I don't know, but it is a little bit weird. Again though, this clip is from what looks like the top of one of the skyscrapers on Kaleidoscope. Now next on our list is Sundance, the iconic wingsuit mystery specialist that we've seen ever since the reveal of this game. Now she gets, of course, her wingsuit, which is pretty iconic, I'd say, for this game so far, and then the smart explosives. First up, let's get a showcase of that wingsuit, and boy oh boy is this going to be a fun specialist. Now as Sundance dives out of this Osprey, we can see that this appears to be the farmland side of Renewal. It's green as far as the eye can see. It does look like there is not that much cover around. I don't know if changes were made or not, or maybe this side of the map is just generally more open and for vehicle play, whereas the desert side is a little bit more infantry focused. Could be a design thing, but it does look a tad open over in the farmland. That being said, Sundance flies into the building and makes a nice play with the 12M auto shotgun that we see. It appears to be firing slugs because she seems to have some good range with it, but nonetheless puts a couple of rounds, gets a double kill. GG's to Sundance. Next up, and this one actually might be a tad OP. Still debating on that though. It may not be, and that's the smart explosives. Back on Kaleidoscope in sunny South Korea, Sundance grabs what appears to be 3 different kinds of smart explosives. The one that is equipped is called Scatter, which we can see in the corner. The middle one is a anti-vehicle explosive, and the last one looks like an EMP explosive. Now she does get a triple kill with the Scatter grenade, and she goes in the plus menu and seems to keep Scatter equipped, but I'm not sure if that's a bug because obviously she throws the grenade at this helicopter, which you'd think would be like the anti-vehicle grenade. Regardless, it shoots some little rockets, it's mini rocket underneath it, and floats up to the heli and takes it out with about, I'd say, 35-ish health remaining on it. So it's not gonna one hit a full health helicopter, but if I was a heli pilot, I'd look out when I get close to the ground. Either way, it looks pretty darn powerful. Up next in the specialist is Jisoo Pike, which I really hope I'm pronouncing correctly, though I doubt it. She is a recon with the EMGX scanner and threat perception as her trait. Now, this clip is pretty unique because it shows both the trait as well as the gadget in one single kind of flowing clip, so we're going to go into that. Up first is of course the trait that's going to be threat perception. We see Specialist Pike here with her 12M shotgun, which appears to be firing the normal rounds considering you have the circle sort of reticle here instead of the one that we saw earlier with Sundance. Now she takes a little bit of damage from someone who thinks they're being all strategic over here until they realize, oh shoot, I just shot Jisoo Pike, she knows where I am now, and then he proceeds to eat some 12 gauge shells in the face. I also gotta say, Manifest looks glorious right here. I mean, this is gonna be just an incredibly fun map. I'm very excited to get into these freight containers and see what kind of chaos ensues. After this, we run through another freight container. Then Miss Pike takes them down from the top of a stack of these shipping containers. She pulls up her Magnum with the sniper scope on it and just pops a headshot right into this guy who was just, again, thinking he was all strategic. I also want to very quickly point out the new UI that we'll see with the kill feed in this clip. We actually get to see one of the more up-to-date UIs here. Now, I also want to put up some footage of a trailer that Battlefield also released that does show the latest up-to-date UI that we will be seeing at launch. It looks very nice. So don't think that what we see in this specialist trailer is final. This is going to be the actual UI, and honestly, I think a lot of people are going to really like this. Now, after this, everyone gets a little bit frisky because what a lot of people are calling wall hacks seems to pop up as her gadget, the EMG scanner. Now, if you think about it, it pretty much is wall hacks. I would imagine it's on a pretty decent cooldown though, and honestly, I'm not sure how to feel about it. It does feel like it can really harm people wanting to flank around and really harm movement, but it can also harm and be a good counter to people who are camping, which we see in the clip as she can see someone camping on the other side of one of the freights and she goes around and kills them. But again, I can't help but think that this is also going to put a damper on anyone who's trying to pull off a smart flank to be able to help their team get out of a certain sticky situation. It's interesting, and I feel like there is definitely a decent debate to be had around it, but personally, I'm still not sure how to feel about it. Lastly is Angel, who I have gripes with. This is the one specialist that absolutely 100% needs some kind of alteration, because Jesus, he is the utility guy. So let's get into who Angel is, because I mean, if there ever is a more perfectly named specialist on the battlefield, I mean, this guy is literally an angel. So he has the loadout crate, and he has a trauma specialist trait to him that rhymed. That was very unintentional, I promise. Again, kind of like Specialist Pike's clip, this is one flowing clip, so it shows both the trait as well as the gadget involved. Starting off, we see Renewal's Desert Half, looks pretty cool. Firing the newly unveiled AC-42 assault rifle from a zip line looks Awesome. Then he hops down after he finishes off a couple of enemies to revive a teammate, which the UI seems to be the old UI, so any changes to the revive don't seem to be there yet. That being said, part of his trait as a trauma specialist is to revive people and give them full armor. So Falk, whatever usefulness you have, that just disappeared again. So fun. Also attrition, I mean armor. Yeah, that's the same thing. It pretty much is if you think about it. Now he then runs over to a firing Irish, which is our first look at Irish in third person. The white beard looks glorious. Rest in peace, Michael K. Williams. And he deploys his loadout crate, which aside from the armor that you can pick up off of it, seems pretty useful to resupply for you and your teammates, as well as being able to change your loadouts in certain situations. Now, this is where Angel becomes the utility specialist that can do literally everything, because if you give him, say, a launcher as his second gadget, something that's anti-vehicle, he can fulfill pretty much every single role. He could resupply your armor, so that's semi-health. If you think about it, again, attrition, it's literally attrition. Let's be honest with ourselves here. He can revive you with full armor, so bye-bye, Maria. You were fun while you lasted in the beta. He can also resupply all of your explosives as well as his own explosives if he has a launcher, so he can one-man army against vehicles. And he can also change his loadout whenever he wants. So if he's, getting shot at by a sniper somewhere, find a little bit of cover, drop down a loadout crate, switch to a sniper rifle, boom, you have an actual fight on your hands. Something needs to be done about this guy because he's kind of OP if you think about it. If you're not running him, like the only thing he's missing is having some kind of advanced traversal like McKay or Sundance. Other than that, he's literally the only specialist you should run. There's no reason to run anyone else at all. He can do literally everything. So it would have been nice to have a beta with all the specialists so that we could get feedback on this, but right now Angel looks like the meta specialist of meta specialists, and I'm a little concerned. Now this flows right into my final point about specialists. I think they were an interesting idea on paper, but there seems to be so many issues that they present that would not be there had they just tried to implement them in a different way. If you want to solve the problem of people picking classes based on their primary weapon, keep the class system, but just make weapons universal. That seems to solve a problem that is far easier than creating all these other new problems. On top of that, you have this issue that I call the RPG issue. And I'm not talking about actual rocket-propelled grenades, I'm talking about role-playing games. You see, role-playing games had this issue for a long time where you would find a piece of gear that maybe you didn't like the look of it, but it had better stats, so you decided to equip it anyway. That was until they introduced something called transmog, where you can actually put the look of gear that you like on top of other gear pieces so that you can keep the good stats but keep the look that you want. A lot of people really love this feature, and Battlefield decided to introduce this RPG problem with specialists because you have these specialists tied to these traits and to these gadgets that you can't really interchange, and does harm team play a bit, and you almost have to run a certain one if you want to play in a certain way, if that makes sense. Like, you have to run a certain look, and if you don't maybe like a certain specialist, well, that's too bad. He's the good specialist, and so you're gonna have to run him or her if you want to be competitive on the battlefield today. And I just feel like putting certain specialists inside of classes, like put a few under each particular class, and then you can interchange the gadgets that are going to be dependent on each gadget slot within that class, and then you can choose whatever ability you want. I feel like that keeps that traditional Battlefield structure that works really well for those base modes like Conquest and Breakthrough and whatnot, but also allows for much more freedom. You can even keep the universal weapons. You don't have to lock those down. And to me, that's a far freer way to play the game than to have everything locked to a particular specialist. Again, I can see the things that they're trying to do with specialists. I don't think it's 100% a bad thing. I think it's an interesting idea on paper. I just don't think that it's a complete idea. It feels like it was just kind of jammed in there, either thinking about a different game mode, which I feel like Hazard Zone was originally what this game was built around, and not your traditional Battlefield structure, and that's why we have these issues, and they just try to jam them in here real quickly. But I think with a little bit of reworking and kind of making them fit a little bit better within a structure that works for Battlefield, you can evolve within Battlefield's identity and keep that classic structure of the game. Because I think until they fix those problems, I think there's going to be a lot of Portal servers that are going to be 2042 maps and weapons and vehicles and things, but are running Battlefield 3 classes, because I don't think people want to deal with the issues that specialists are going to bring, and I'm sure they're going to have quite a few issues at launch. Again, we couldn't test all of the specialists during the beta, so I'm sure balance is going to be quite an issue at launch. Again, we'll have to see. But like I said, I imagine there's going to be a lot of BF3 on 2042 map servers in the Portal. So that's just my quick thoughts on that. I'll probably make a full video giving my full thoughts on the specialist situation now that we know what all of them are and what all their abilities are. So subscribe for that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a nice, thick and juicy like. Of course, I will see you in the next video.